Blinding dust storms, torrential rain, flash flooding, and damaging winds. Powerful thunderstorms can strike in an instant. The ABC 15 forecasters are taking action to keep you and your family safe during the monsoon. The power of ABC 15 Desert Doppler and the most accurate forecast 6 years in a row. Now, the ABC 15 Monsoon Special, Destruction in the Desert.
The monsoon is here, and so are all the threats that come with it.
Dangerous lightning, blinding dust, pouring rain, and flash flooding. We'll see all of it in the next 3 months.
Thank you for joining us from the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix. I'm Amy Murphy.
And I'm meteorologist Iris Hermosillo.
And I'm Chief Meteorologist Amber Sullen. The monsoon is our most dangerous time of year, so we're going to spend the next 30 minutes breaking down exactly what to expect and helping you prepare for it. And if you have questions along the way, tweet us using the hashtag on your screen, ABC15WX for weather.
So what is the monsoon? It's not a storm itself, but rather a seasonal shift in our winds that causes thunderstorms to form. Near the end of June and beginning of July, southerly winds bring in moisture from the eastern Pacific Ocean, the Gulf of California, and the Gulf of Mexico. Our intense summer heat causes all of that moisture to rise, producing powerful thunderstorms around our state. Those storms bring lightning, strong winds, massive dust storms, heavy rain, hail, and flooding. The monsoon season officially begins June 15th and lasts through September 30th. But don't be surprised if nature decides to wait a few more weeks before unleashing the full power of the monsoon.
Early on in the monsoon, our storms typically start out dry. Not a lot of rain, but lots of high winds.
And those powerful downburst winds can only last a few seconds, but they do the most damage every year. Downburst winds happen when rain-cooled air rushes from the base of the cloud to the ground. Once that air hits the ground, it spreads out equally in all directions and gains speed, creating wind gusts sometimes as high as 100 miles per hour. It's kind of like dropping a water balloon on the ground. The term microburst is used when this happens in one small area. And that's exactly what we saw over Deer Valley last summer. Uprooting trees, knocking down power lines, and severely damaging mobile homes on September 12th.
A neighbor called right over here and said their roof is gone, and I thought he was exaggerating.
1 minute, Dave and Kathy Barrick had a roof, and then it was gone.
The roof shot straight up in the air about 40 or 50 feet, started twisting like this, and then landed over on the street, the next street over.
Having just moved to the valley from Indiana 2 months before, they got their first taste of how destructive our monsoon can be. Downburst winds are also the cause of the massive blinding dust storms we get each summer.
That's right, they're not just a nuisance, they can be dangerous and potentially deadly. Here's how they form. When a thunderstorm collapses, cold air out in front of it rushes down at an incredible rate, picking up huge amounts of dirt off the desert floor and creating not just your average dust storm, but a massive wall of dust called a haboob. These dust walls can tower thousands of feet above the ground and can stretch the entire length of the valley. As the dust storm builds, it can completely block out the sun, turning daylight into darkness almost instantly, making it impossible to see just a few feet in front of you. These monster storms typically last several hours before they fall apart and are more likely to form during the evening rush hour, moving into the valley from the open desert to our south or west. Our biggest haboob ever observed hit in 2011. Around 7:30 p.m. on July 5th, a massive wall of dust poured into the valley over the Estrella Mountains. While most haboobs typically tower 1,500 to 3,000 feet high, this monster stood approximately 5,000 feet high and stretched the entire length of the valley from Goodyear to Apache Junction. That's over 60 miles wide. It downed trees and power lines and caused at least one semi to flip over as winds gust over 60 miles an hour. If you look outside and see a wall of dust coming your way, it's best to stay indoors. Otherwise, you could be hurt by flying rocks and debris.
Even more dangerous than simply being caught outside during a dust storm is trying to drive through one. The Arizona Department of Transportation knows far too well how deadly that can be.
Visibility can drop to next to nothing in a matter of seconds as dense blowing dust kicks up off the desert floor. Often that leads to huge, sometimes deadly accidents on our roads and highways, but the Arizona Department of Transportation is working hard to help you avoid them. You've seen overhead message boards like this one. ADOT uses them to alert drivers to the hazards ahead. Permanent signs are also posted in dust-prone areas, and as the dust moves in, ADOT relies on their camera network and field crews to see exactly which areas are affected.
We want drivers to be safe, and we want them to make informed decisions so they're prepared and, most importantly, safe.
Remember, pull aside, stay alive.
If you see like a big wall of dust ahead of you, that is probably the time you need to take action and pull off the side of the road, because you do not want to get caught in a dust storm.
Of course, dust storms also create huge air quality problems for us.
That's right. Sometimes that dust can linger for days.
And people with respiratory issues can definitely feel it, but we all need to watch out for the long-term effects on our health. Dust storms stir up tiny fungal spores in our desert, and breathing them in can be harmful to your health. In some cases, it can even cause people to develop a valley fever. According to Dr. John Galgiani, the symptoms are very similar to other respiratory illnesses or pneumonia.
Cough, chest pain, fevers, as the name implies, is very common, often drenching night sweats.
Sounds pretty miserable, and according to Dr. Galgiani, we live in the worst place in the entire country for valley fever. 2/3 of all valley fever infections happen right here in Arizona, and out of those, 80% in Maricopa County.
Fortunately, most people, whether it's diagnosed or not, or treated or not, get over it. It may take weeks or many months, but it's usually good news. But a small percentage go on to have these very serious problems. There's approximately 400 of those a year in Arizona, and approximately 100 deaths every year from this disease.
2011 was one of the worst years we've ever seen, with just under 16,000 cases reported. It wasn't quite that bad last year, but it wasn't good either, with over 12,000 cases. While Dr. Galgiani does not believe our increased dust storms have directly caused the huge rise in valley fever cases over the last decade, he does believe that our changing weather patterns are to blame as our state becomes a drier and dustier place.
Hundreds of thousands of lightning bolts will light up the sky during the monsoon, while only a few of them will make it to the ground.
And lightning and thunder go hand in hand, how you can use them both to see how close you are to a storm.
For the latest monsoon information and the most accurate forecast in the valley, check out abc15.com and click on the Weather tab. You're watching ABC 15's Monsoon Special, Destruction in the Desert.